So I will now open the hearing for House Bill 564, and I will call on Representative Mary Heath, who is the prime sponsor of 564. Welcome to House Education, Representative Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, honorable members of the committee. Again, I'm Mary Heath, and I represent Manchester, New Hampshire, District 14. I am here today to introduce 564. I've been an educator for over 42 years, and I always told my students and their families, you're safe in school. I can't say that anymore, and it breaks my heart when I hear my own granddaughter say that there are times when she's afraid to go to school. HB 564 won't solve the whole problem, but it's a first good step. That, better mental health in our schools, and the vigilance of our educators and secure schools are the path toward building safer schools for our students and educators. Why do we need House Bill 564? The Federal Gun-Free Schools Act prohibits students from bringing firearms into schools. And the Gun-Free School Zone Act prohibits all other persons from bringing firearms within 1,000 feet of school property unless they are licensed by the state to carry a firearm. However, New Hampshire state law does not prohibit guns in schools, and a recent statement from the Attorney General's office has left school districts and police departments in murky water on enforcement and jeopardizes safe spaces for our children to learn and grow. A number of us participated in a group talking about these issues. Superintendents, schools attorneys, their concern is what is their standing. Right now, an adult could bring a gun into school, and unless they issue threats or start shooting students, school administrators and local police departments have little recourse. Meanwhile, school procedure is to go into lockdown. The presence of firearms in our schools disrupts learning environments and takes school personnel and resources away from their primary job of teaching our students. HB 564 codifies the Federal Gun-Free Schools Act in New Hampshire law so that the law will read, in a safe school zone as defined in RSA 193D, any person who violates the provisions of this paragraph shall be guilty of a Class A demeanor. 564 does not apply to any person picking up or dropping off a student provided the firearm remains in a motor vehicle and is not loaded, and is either locked in a container or locked in firearms rack. Secondly, any person authorized in writing by the school board or duly authorized designee to possess a firearm, for example, ROTC. Any duly appointed law officer and properly trained school resource officer or member of armed services of the United States or National Guard when on duty. The specific differences between HB 101 and 564 is that HB 564 amends state law and puts into New Hampshire law the Federal Gun-Free School Zones provision and would apply to all districts across the state, while HB 101 is municipal, leaving municipalities and school districts with this decision, which would create a number of issues for SAUs made up of several towns. In school board races, it could become a political issue, and for local and state police would create a nightmare of enforcement. The majority of states, 47 of them, including the District of Columbia, prohibit carrying or possessing a firearm on K-12 school property or events. Only Hawaii, New Hampshire, and Wyoming do not. 40 states and DC, 40 states extend their laws prohibiting guns at K-12 schools to people who have concealed weapons permit. New Hampshire has never experienced a multi-student shooting event, and while this bill can't promise that it will prevent such a tragedy, it's one step to keeping New Hampshire children safe from harm. In most cases, when a gun is reported on school premises, a lockdown is set into place until such time as safety can be assured. That's a practice that most of our school districts have had in place since the Columbine events. New Hampshire is putting its students, educators, school districts, and police departments at risk by not making it abundantly clear that school districts and police departments can enforce the gun-free schools law. This is a major insurance liability and public relations crisis for our school. Can you imagine what does this do for school district insurance rates? Most people across our state already believe that schools are gun-free school zones. I know that I did. Currently, state officials, including those within the Attorney General's office, have told school officials and local police departments that they cannot enforce the federal law, leaving superintendents and school boards helpless to promote their schools as gun-free zones. Thank you, and I ask for your support for 564. If I could take a minute, I received a number of emails from teachers and educators, but this one in particular I thought was important. Dear House Education members, as an English and social studies educator, social issues have often been raised and discussed in my classroom. One that often rises in its own from students is the issue of guns and school safety. Numerous students have expressed in my class that the prospect of guns in our schools, whether carried by members of the public or educators, makes them feel less safe, not more. I urge you to take seriously the fears of our youth who seek to feel safe from the presence of guns in one of the few places that they can feel safe. And sincerely, Erin Boucher, who is a teacher. I thank you, and I sincerely hope, after 42 years as an educator, mother, grandmother, teacher, assistant superintendent, former deputy commissioner of education, this is important. Again, it's not going to solve everything, but it's one step, and it gives our superintendents at least an ability to take a stand. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Representative. Other questions of Representative Heath? Can you turn in your statement? And for those of you that may have, thank you very much, Representative Heath. For those of you that came in late, the prime sponsor has the ability to present the hearing, to present the bill, and does get more time than the 3 minutes. Just want to clarify that.
Crop TV.